Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to the match reaction show. It's finished Tottenham Hotspur 2, Arsenal nil. The Spurs juggernaut keeps rolling on with another win. Well, I mean, if it wasn't, well, they're now top of the league. And if it wasn't clear before, I think Spurs now are definitely in the title race. And you might even say that with this Liverpool game coming up, that could very well determine where Spurs are going to finish this season, whether they're going to finish first or second, but doing really well at the moment. And I mean, there's lots to talk about, but there are a few interesting key points from this game that I think stood out for me, and we'll go to them. But first off, I think that first goal from Son. I mean, that was I mean that I thought that was a better goal than the one that Paul Pogba scored yesterday, because I think Paul Pogba's goal was nice and instinctive, but it set up nicely for him. Son actually had to do quite a lot even after getting the ball from Kane. He had to actually make a bit of a run, and then the angle in that shot was really beautiful. So I thought Son's goal was better. It's not a competition, but I thought that was a much better goal. The way he struck it, the way he went past players, and also the way he timed that shot, the timing on that shot, the placement, the angles. I think that was all just perfect. Beautiful goal from Son, and I think that goal was important because the way that this team, both was a game between two teams that are both defensively pretty good. I think for all of Arsenal's problems, they have been defensively pretty solid. They had Thomas Partey back today, which I think made a big difference in that first half, just defensively. And I think that was their plan. The plan was to nullify Spurs and then see if they could hit, on the counter, on the break. Same for Spurs, as you always do, park the bus, keep it tight, keep it compact, and then hit on the counter. So that goal from Son was actually important because it pretty much came from a counter, but it was also a long range goal, which you normally don't want to concede those, but those are probably the best ways. One of the ways that Spurs were going to score, and once they can score that goal, I think it allowed Spurs to then play their game, which was sit on the break, wait for Arsenal to make a mistake, to give the ball away while they're all up in front, and then see if they could hit on the break. So that goal was important for them from that perspective. For Spurs, I think Arsenal would have been disappointed with the way that goal was conceded. But once they conceded that goal, they knew it was going to what the task ahead for them was. And Spurs, I mean, the way that they played was so deep. Now, the Nishikant mentioned this. He said that Spurs, and I actually mentioned this on Facebook on the group. He said that Spurs play so deep that if you can nullify the counter attack, then they can't really score goals, and that's true. That's very true. If you do, because they sit so deep, there is an opportunity with like what Chelsea did last week, where they stopped the counters. Spurs didn't have opportunities to score. The issue though is that it's a tactical setup. It's not something that happens. It's a tactical setup that Jose believes that he can sit deep because he's got Ndombele, which he didn't have today, but normally has Ndombele and he has Kane, who can find Bergwijn and Son, who have that pace to then go past players and then find goals. So it's a tactical setup that he's built. It's effective and it works, and it's worked so far in the league, you'd have to say. So that's kind of what they do. But yes, that is a weakness, and it is an area that teams can exploit. At least offensively, they can nullify them. I don't know how you defend, how you do, how you get goals against them. They seem pretty solid defensively, so I still don't know how you break down that Spurs defense. But in terms of stopping them from scoring goals, I think that is the key, is nullifying that counter-attacking potential. And I think that the way to do that is probably making sure you mark out Kane and you mark out, in today's game it would have been Lo Celso, but normally Ndombele is the one who provides that. So you mark those two out. But I mean, it's easier said than done, really. But that second goal came as a result of the fact that Spurs had scored early. They had forced Arsenal, to come out of their defensive organization. And by the way, that I thought Arsenal were pretty flat throughout the game, but that was one of their better pieces of play when Lacazette got the ball and he actually played a nice little through ball, and just needed somebody to get on the end of that, which they didn't. And then immediately, it comes back out. Aurier makes a very nice pass, and then it all kickstarts really from there. And again, Son getting an assist for Kane getting an assist for Son. So those guys are really working well together, and then Kane scoring a nice, wonderful goal, nice counter-attacking goal. And up to that point, I was actually going to tweet. I was going to say, first half, I think Arsenal have been pretty solid defensively because this happened that first goal. And even after that, Arsenal Spurs hadn't created anything. And even after that second goal, they didn't really create much in that second half. There were not that many clear-cut chances, whereas Arsenal, I thought, had created a few openings. Nothing too scary. Maybe in the second half, there were a few moments where, a little bit of an underhit, properly placed pass or properly placed cross might have made a difference, but I don't think otherwise Arsenal had created a lot of chances in this game. The same for Spurs. Spurs, I think, created even less in that second half. They really didn't. trouble Arsenal's defense that much. So I thought the game was won on moments, and those were the two key moments in that game. Was the counter-attacking goal that Kane scored, and then before that, that amazing goal that Son scored. And it might very well be the goal of the weekend. I don't know. I've not seen all the games, but to me, that might be the goal of the weekend. But we'll see. There's got a couple of games left to come still, so we'll see if that changes. But I mean, that I think was the key takeaway from that game as a whole. I thought it was a game that was won on moments, and had Arsenal done better to nullify those moments, they might have won this. They might have drawn this game. I don't think they would have won it, but they might have drawn this game. And of course, the second goal, one thing that's lost is the fact that it came on a counter when Arsenal were down to 10 men, because I think Partey was injured and he was coming off, and Ceballos hadn't yet come on. So that might, so that might be a minor gripe for Arsenal fans, minor gripe. But otherwise, I think there was. I don't think you can really say much about those goals. I thought second half, the other thing was the introduction of Danny Ceballos. Once he came on, I tweeted this out. I thought Arsenal lacked creativity in that first half. They tried and they tried, and there's just nobody to put the ball in the right areas for the strikers or for the wingers to then do something with it. Ceballos came on and he changed the game in some ways, because he was getting a lot more time on the ball. He was making good passes. He was playing them around. Lacazette looked a lot more involved as well because of that. And that is the key. And again, it comes down to what Arteta values. Does he value that defensive solidity that he gets from players like Partey? And Partey is probably injured, so it may not be a moot point anyway. But does he value that defensive solidity that those guys provide, or does he want to add a little bit of creativity in this game? And again, it is a little bit of a conundrum, because Spurs kind of backed off from Arsenal after they were 2-0 up. They were like, well, you can have the ball, you can do whatever you want with it. We are confident that we're going to stop you from scoring, which they did. So it's a little bit of a red herring or a false dawn in some ways, because you get those chances when you're 2-0 down. You sometimes do have that opportunity because teams back off, so you can look very good in those moments where you can play lots of good passes because you have time on the ball, because the other team allows you to have it. But can you do that when you're 0-0 and the other team's bringing down your neck? I think that's the key. And can you be this expansive when you're 0-0 and you're trying to keep a result as opposed to trying to save a game? So those are things to consider. I think that's where Arteta, I think he is very defensive by nature. I think his focus right now is defense first. And you can see that. You can see Arsenal are very, very good. In most moments, they're pretty good defensively. They have those few lapses that will happen. That happened today. But otherwise, I think aside from those few lapses, they were pretty good defensively. They pretty much nullified Spurs throughout the game. So they were not that bad. And I think at the end of the day, that's probably what's going to hurt them, is the fact that they were not bad defensively, but they were undone by a couple of brilliant attacking plays. And there's not a lot you can do in those situations. But that's what separates decent teams from good teams from great teams. And at the moment, Arsenal are probably a decent team. They're not a good team and they're not a great team. They're a decent team, and they can't really keep that up for 90 minutes. So that's something for worry. But longer term, I think there are questions to be asked and answered. And I think one of the biggest questions will be, what is Granit Xhaka's role in this team? Because I thought today he was pretty poor. And a lot of people have been saying that in the comments as well. He's not. I mean, it was telling as well. There was a commentary piece there that they were asking, which midfield do you prefer? Do you prefer Xhaka and Partey, or do you prefer Sissoko and Højbjerg? And the answer was, well, the best one is probably Partey and Højbjerg, right? And that's probably gives you best of both worlds. But Sissoko does a very good job. So you might want to take out. So if Partey is not available, you bring in Sissoko. The telling thing is nobody talked about Xhaka. Nobody wanted Xhaka. And that is very, very important here. I don't see what Xhaka offers in this team, aside from doing a lot of fouls. He made a lot of fouls today, so maybe he offers that breakup play, but he really want that. And picks out yellow cards. But he doesn't offer a lot. Doesn't offer a lot to this team, and they need to figure out what they want to do with that position. Is it Partey and Xhaka? Should it be Partey and Ceballos starting games? Should that be the first choice midfield? I think that should be the first choice midfield, because you don't need two defensive midfielders. If you're gonna play two defensive midfielders, fair enough. There are certain games where you play two defensive midfielders, maybe against a Liverpool, against a City, you play two defensive midfielders, so you protect that back four, and because you will get spaces to attack, so you don't necessarily need somebody to break them down. But against teams like Arsenal, you don't really need. Spurs. You don't need two defensive midfielders, because Spurs aren't gonna come at you. They're not going to try to break you down. They're going to try to play through you on the counter. So having two defensive midfielders, basically what that means is, yeah, fair enough, you're trying to get a draw out of it. You play two defensive midfielders to stop the attacks. But what you're also doing is you're nullifying your own creativity, and you're making it that much harder for yourself to get goals or goal opportunities. So it's a balance. I don't think in most games, I mean, if Arsenal have an ambition this season, I don't think they should be playing two different holding midfielders. There are games where they'll need to play them, but I think most games they shouldn't. But again, it depends on what Partey's issues are. I mean, he's already becoming an Arsenal player, isn't he? With the injuries that he's picking up at the moment, it's a problem. I hope this injury is nothing serious that he's come off for. I hope it's minor niggle or something and be back. But it's a concern. If you're an Arsenal fan, it's a concern when you see players getting injured. It always is. So let's hope that's not the case with Partey. I thought he had a decent game today, and I think Ceballos had a decent game as well. So maybe there is something there. The other issue I think obviously is with Lacazette playing as a number 10. He looked okay actually in the second half, and I said it in the second half there was a lot more space for him to work, so he could actually play some balls through balls, and he actually had some influence. But I mean, you got to question if you're going to play four. I mean, it should have been a 4-4-2. If you really want to do it, play a 4-4-2. If you want to play Lacazette and Aubameyang together, but if you're trying to play Lacazette as a number 10, that really shows what the lack of options are at the moment. And they don't have a lot of options at the number 10 role, actually, to be perfectly honest. They've got Joe Willock, Rice Nelson, both of them untested, untried. Willian could play there, but he's more of a hustling number 10 rather than, creative number 10. He's more of a combative sort of player. So you're not going to get a lot. They do have a certain number 10, and I put this again out on the tweet. They do have a certain number 10 who could provide an alternative, but he's not even in the squad. And that's the key, isn't it? You have a player, I'm not saying that player, Mesut Ozil, I'm not saying Mesut Ozil is world class, I think he's not, but I think he could do a better job than what options Arsenal have at the moment. At least he should have the opportunity to prove himself, but he's not even going to get that because he's not even in the squad. So that's an issue. But I think the key issues are two players. I think at the moment, the biggest issues offensively are two players. Actually three if you want to count Xhaka, but I said Xhaka. I think the first one is Willian. I think he has not. I mean, sure he had a good debut, but I think since then he's offered very little to Arsenal. And the issue is for Arsenal is they already have a few players who can do the job. Tracking back all of that. Willian's USP has always been that he's got a good work rate and that he can work hard. But you don't. I mean, you don't really need another working hard player. You need players who are gonna because Arsenal what they need is creativity. They lack creativity. They need players with creativity, players who can break teams down. And Willian doesn't offer a lot of that. He's never offered a lot of that, to be honest. And I've not seen a lot of Willian, but from whatever I've seen of him, he's always struck me as a player that as someone who has a work rate, who can create, who does his job, so others can be the more creative players. He's not necessarily the most creative player. He'll never be the most creative player in a team, or he shouldn't be the most creative player in the team because he's not that creative. But he offers a lot in terms of work rate. But Arsenal don't really need that. They need someone who can provide a bit of thrust, a bit of flair, a bit of innovation, and he doesn't. He doesn't do that, and that's a key problem that's going to need to be solved. And I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, you expect Arsenal to know better than to sign over the hell Chelsea rejects, but they keep doing that. So I don't know what the situation is with that, but he hasn't really done a lot at the moment for Arsenal. Maybe Pepe coming back, he might be the answer, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. And then the other problem is Aubameyang. And, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, he signed a new contract and he's been shit ever since. And he might have been. I don't think it's the new contract signing that's the issue. I think after the great season that he had last, there's always a little bit of a blip that happens. And very few players can keep that consistency. And, Aubameyang probably isn't in that category. And so he's having troubles, but the question again is, what's the alternative? If you don't start Aubameyang, who's the alternative? Is it Lacazette? He's not scoring a lot of goals either. Is it Nketiah? He's not, he's unproven. You probably might want to give him a chance, but he's a goal poacher. He's not exactly the Aubameyang type player. So what is the option? And that's where the issues come. When you're a top player at the club, sure enough, you want to know that there's security in your position, but you also want to know that there's somebody pushing you if you don't do well. And what's the incentive for Aubameyang at the moment to do well? He's got his new contract. He's got his new contract. He knows he's probably going to play every week, even if he plays badly. So what's the incentive for him to improve? And I think that's something, squad management, squad building, that we talk about every time. That's going to be key. And that's another issue that they need Aubameyang either back in form or they need to resolve and get him to that position. So that would be something as well to keep in mind and to keep track of as well for them. But we can't make this too Arsenal centric, because Spurs I thought were excellent. Again, Jose Mourinho doing what he does best in these sort of games, where he knew what he had to do. He had a game plan, and he was helped by a very, very good goal from Son, no doubt about it. But it's about what you do in those moments. And he got that goal, and then they immediately knew what their game plan was, and they stuck to it throughout the game. There's no point. At no point did you feel Spurs were overwhelmed in the attack. There was no, like, in defense, like, Arsenal were jumping on them. Even at Arsenal's best moments, it always looked like they had them at arm's length. There was never that point. There was no panicking. There was no desperation in their defense, and that was wonderful to watch. Wonderful organization to watch. Harry Kane, I mean, he's an amazing player. I mean, everything's been said about him. Top scorer now in North London derbies. Amazing, incredible goal. And what he offers beyond just his goals is the fact that us Spurs don't have a lot of creativity. What gets overshadowed is the fact that Spurs did exactly what Arsenal did, where they played two holding midfielders and then a back four. And their creativity, though, comes from Ndombele, who wasn't playing today. So a lot of the creative burden was on Harry Kane. And I mean, he did his job pretty well. He was actually an auxiliary centre half at times in corners, right? He was heading crosses away. He was doing all of that. He's an incredible player. But he put that little bit of creativity, for that little bit of small hand that he had in Son's goal, can't be overlooked. And then, of course, the goal that he himself scored was also beautiful and brilliant. And that's what it's about, taking your chances and making chances. And I think Kane, a lot of the play goes through Kane, and he's integral in the way that Spurs are playing this season. And it's brilliant to watch. But the man of the match, I think, it has to be Son. It has to be Son. I think both of them played well. Son and Kane played well, but Son's goal was better. So you got to give it to Son. And I thought Son was brilliant. That goal was just brilliant. But beyond that, I think what he offers is so much more. The fact that his pace is an asset. He's quite creative as well in the way he plays. And if he was an Asian, I think people would rate him much, much higher than they do at the moment. I think there's only one team, and that's Liverpool, I think, and for whom he wouldn't be a starter. And that's only because Liverpool have got Salah and Mane on their wings. And they've got Jota waiting in the subs. So only for that reason. But I think he's good enough to be a starter for Liverpool as well, if Liverpool didn't have those three wingers. But other than that, I think he would be a starter for any other club in the Premier League. That's how good he is. That's how wonderful he is. I think him and Mane, I think, are a bit underrated because they're not white, and we don't want to say it, but I think that is part of the reason. But I'm not trying to play the waste card here. I think that's just generally, maybe because I should say, maybe it's because they're not European. I think it's very more correct. And they're not European, they're not rated as highly as some of their counterparts. But incredibly amazing player is Heung-Min Son. I think he's really stepped it up this season. He's been a good player for a long time. I think over the last year or so, I think he's really stepped it up. He's understood his game. He's got that connection with Kane now, and both of them, I think, they're maturing and they're peaking at the right time. And they've got this brilliant understanding, and they're working off of it, and they're making full use of it. I think that's the key. So brilliant performance from Spurs, and the only issue, I think, is probably Bergwijn, and I think they need to fix that. The thing is, Bergwijn, it's hard to be, there are very few players on the level that Son and Kane are right now. So Bergwijn looks a little bit lagging for that reason. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's just lagging a bit, and but they don't have options. Bale hasn't really stepped up to the plate, and it's hard. It's hard going from being a golfer to a footballer at this point. I'm just kidding, but I think Bale has those issues. So Bergwijn right now, he offers that pace and that defensive work rate, so I think it works. But offensively, I think that's the weak point for Spurs, is Bergwijn not being at the level that Kane and Son are. So maybe there is a point of weakness there. But otherwise, they look solid, and Spurs are going to be good value. I think then the next few games are going to be important for Spurs, because they've come away with 4 points from Chelsea and Arsenal, which I think they'll be happy with. I don't think they'll mind that too much. I'm just going to take a quick look at Spurs' next game, because I want to see. Yeah, they're going to play Crystal Palace. That's going to be an important one. They're going to play Antwerp in the Europa League, but that's a gimme. At this point, they're already qualified. So that's Crystal Palace game is going to be important, because Zaha is going to be back for that one. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. And then it's the big one against Liverpool. So getting 3 points for the next one, I think they'll be really, really wanting to get that done and dusted. So, but we'll see what happens. But final score again, Tottenham 2, Arsenal 0. It was a good game to watch from Spurs' point. From a tactical point of view from Spurs, I think it was probably a well-executed game plan. But Arsenal could have done better if they had a little bit more of a cutting edge up front. I think would have made a whole lot of difference to this game. I don't know if they would have won the game, but it would have definitely made a difference in terms of the performance that we saw today. So that's something to fix for Arteta, but we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please smash a like if you enjoyed it, and please remember to subscribe if you're new. We want to see if we can get to 130 subscribers soon. So please help us reach that goal. We want to keep producing this content. We want to keep entertaining you, and your subscription helps us and supports us in doing just that for you. So please do subscribe. And we'll see you again shortly. I'm gonna watch the Liverpool Wolves game, so I'll probably do a reaction for that one as well. So stay tuned, and you'll get a notification once you subscribe to when that video goes up. So please stay tuned. And of course, I'm also going to be tweeting. I do live tweeting these days, so you can also keep following us on Twitter. Then you get those comments from me as well, and you can also engage that way. So let me know what you thought of the game as an Arsenal fan or as a Spurs fan in the comments too. Always happy to hear your views and your analysis as well. So it's always good to get different perspectives. So let me know that as well. But have a good rest of your day or night, wherever you're watching this. I mean, if you're an Arsenal fan, take solace in the fact that it happened on Sunday, so your weekend wasn't ruined. Now you can probably focus on the work week ahead. If you're a Spurs fan, perfect end to the weekend as well, getting this win. So congratulations to all of you, and congratulations on being top of the league. But we'll see you. I will see you again very, very soon. But take care until then. Bye bye.